Hogwarts Legacy was all of our dream. Yes. Remember the very first moment we stepped through those doors? It was magical, right? But let's be honest. After spending months at Hogwarts, we all started to feel that something was missing beneath that shiny surface. And it is not just me. Thousands of comments under my videos are saying the exact same thing. Beautiful, but not enough. So if Hogwarts Legacy 2 only comes with a bigger map and better graphics, is that really going to satisfy us? Or is it going to turn into one of the biggest disappointments in gaming history? Today, we are talking about the 5 critical points that players, and you guys personally, have asked me to cover, the points that will decide this game's fate. If these things are not there, the second game will end up feeling like nothing more than a nice DLC. If you are ready, let's break it down point by point. Number 1. Blood status and origin choice need to actually matter. I think this is definitely one of the things players want the most. Because in the first game, we create a character, but the feeling of who that character actually is stays very weak. You customize the appearance, sure, but what is their family background? What is their place in the wizarding world? How do people see them? None of that has a truly meaningful impact. And yet, in the Harry Potter universe, these things matter a lot. Being pureblood means one thing, being half-blood means something else, and being Muggle-born is something entirely different. What players especially want is this. If I am choosing an origin at the start of the game, that choice should not just remain a cosmetic detail sitting in a menu. It should affect dialogue, it should change how certain characters approach me, and it should even shift the tone of some quests. For example, if I come from a pure-blood family, some students might treat me differently. But if I am playing as a Muggle-born character, I might feel some social tensions much more intensely. That is when your character starts to feel like they truly have an identity. One of the best things about a system like this is that it would seriously increase replayability. Because if you want players to start the game a second time, you need to give them a real reason. If origin choice genuinely affects the world and the relationships in it, people will say, let me try this again with a different background. And that would turn Hogwarts Legacy 2 from a one-time adventure into a more personal RPG experience. To be honest, I think this is one of the biggest opportunities for the sequel. In the first game, Hogwarts looked beautiful, but our place in that world did not feel all that strong. If, in the second game, your blood status, family background, and origin are truly woven into the fabric of the experience, players could finally feel not just like someone walking around Hogwarts, but like a living part of that world. Number 2. Hogwarts needs to feel like a truly living school. In the first game, Hogwarts itself was genuinely impressive. The corridors, the classrooms, the common rooms, the secret passageways, visually, it was very strong. But the core thing players felt was missing was this. Hogwarts was a beautiful place, but it did not always feel like a living school. In other words, the school atmosphere was there, but the mechanics of school life were not strong enough. And naturally, that made people feel like there should have been more here. What players want in the second game is for classes to become more meaningful. Not just like short missions, but designed in a way that truly gives the feeling of being a student. Progressing through different subjects, specializing in certain areas, more interaction with professors, classroom rivalry, maybe even a school life that changes depending on your success. These kinds of things could take the game to a completely different level. Because one of the strongest parts of the Harry Potter universe is not just casting spells, it is being a Hogwarts student. Another major issue is the house point system. In the first game, that system was almost pushed into the background. And yet, what players really want is to feel like the things they do actually affect their house. You do well in class, you earn points. You break rules, you lose points. Maybe at the end of the term, you really see which house comes out on top. These details may look small, but they strengthen the soul of the game in a huge way. Because they make you feel not like someone just doing quests, but like an actual student of a house. And then of course, there is the issue of roaming at night and breaking school rules. I think there is huge potential here. People want sneaking around Hogwarts at night to feel more dangerous, more tense, and more memorable. Escaping prefects, sneaking into forbidden areas, feeling the fear of being caught, that kind of thing adds both tension and fun to the game. If Avalanche turns Hogwarts in the second game from just a beautiful backdrop into a real, functioning school system, then that student experience players are waiting for could finally come through in the fullest way. Number 3. A real friendship and companion system is a must. One of the characters many players bonded with the most in the first game was Sebastian, and the reason for that is actually very obvious. Sebastian was not just someone handing out quests. He had his own story, his own inner conflict, his own dark side, and a real weight to his character that reached the player. People loved those quests because there was not just action there. There was relationship, emotion, and curiosity. But that system was never fully expanded across the rest of the game. What players want in the second game is much clearer now. a permanent companion system. Not just characters who appear in certain missions, but characters you can actually bring with you, build relationships with, and who are affected by your choices. Characters who can grow closer to you over time or drift away from you. Maybe in some missions, you choose who to take with you. Maybe you become close friends with one character while another starts to distance themselves from you. That is when the game starts to feel much more alive and personal, because the Harry Potter universe was never just an individual story about magic. Friendships, secrets, loyalty, conflict, and shared struggles have always been at the center of this world. And in Hogwarts Legacy 2, people want to feel that more strongly. They do not just want NPCs wandering around them. They want it to matter who they actually build bonds with. Who is our closest friend? Who might turn their back on us? Who might go down a dark path with us? These things would make the game's story much more unforgettable. Honestly, I think this system could become one of the strongest parts of the sequel. Because well-written companion characters do not just make a game better, they also make it more memorable. Years later, people usually do not remember a game's map first. They remember the characters they connected with. If Hogwarts Legacy 2 is bolder about this, and combines a few characters on Sebastian's level with a deeper system, the degree to which players emotionally invest in the game could rise dramatically. Number 4. The dark arts need to have real consequences. This was also one of the most criticized things in the first game. You use Crucio, you cast Imperio, you learn Avada Kedavra, but the world of the game gives almost no real reaction to it, and that is exactly where players got stuck. Because in the Harry Potter universe, dark magic is not just a powerful tool. It is also something ethically heavy, socially heavy, and serious enough to affect the very identity of the character using it. What players want in the second game is this. If I choose to go down the path of the dark arts, that needs to have a real effect on the world. Some students should fear me, some professors should treat me more harshly, and some characters should part ways with me entirely. In the same way, if I play a more balanced and controlled character, that should open up different paths for me. In other words, people no longer just want to make choices. They want to feel the weight of those choices. Because that is where real RPG design begins. And I do not think dialogue changes alone would be enough here either. Your reputation could change, your appearance could shift in subtle ways, and even the solutions to some quests could vary depending on this. Leaning too far into dark magic might make you stronger in the short term, but in the long term, it could damage relationships and close off certain opportunities. In a system like that, the player would be making a real path choice. Otherwise, you are using incredibly powerful spells. But that power has no cost in the world. And I think one of Hogwarts Legacy 2's most important jobs is to create exactly that balance. The balance between power and consequence. In the first game, the power was there, but the consequence side was very weak. If they fix that in the second game, players could finally feel not just like a powerful wizard, but like a character carrying the weight of their own decisions. And honestly, if this system is done well, both the story and the atmosphere of the game could become far more impactful. Number 5. The world needs to be more dynamic. Looking beautiful is not enough. At first, the world of Hogwarts Legacy really was impressive. That much has to be admitted. But after playing for a long time, some players started to feel like that world did not change enough and responded to the player in only very limited ways. So yes, the map was large, it looked great, and there were places to explore, but most of the time the world functioned less like a living system and more like a prepared environment. That is why, in the second game, players do not just want a bigger open world, they want a more alive and more reactive one. The season system could be especially critical here. People want the world to genuinely change when winter arrives. Lakes freezing over, some paths becoming blocked, some areas opening new secrets, different creatures appearing in different seasons. If these things do not remain just visual changes, they could make a huge difference. Because players no longer just want scenery. They want the world's changing state to affect gameplay. And I think that expectation makes perfect sense. Another major expectation is mount variety. Flying on a broom was fun in the first game, but a lot of players think the sequel needs to take that even further. Traveling with more magical creatures, having certain mounts that are useful in specific areas, or even special creatures that allow access to hidden locations could make the exploration side of the game much more interesting. Especially bigger ideas like dragon mounts catch players' attention, because they could add a much more epic feeling to the game. When I look at it overall, I think the real issue is this. Hogwarts Legacy 2 does not need to be bigger, it needs to be more alive. And that is exactly what players really want. The world should not just look good, it should also change, react, and make exploration more satisfying. If the second game can achieve that, then even if people spend long hours in the same map, they will not get bored and will be able to stay in that world much more naturally. And honestly, that is exactly what a good sequel is supposed to do. So which one is number one on your list? Out of these 5 points we talked about today, which one would make you say, I am not playing this game if it is not included? Or what is the hidden detail I missed that makes you say, this absolutely has to be there? Please write it in the comments. I am going to read every single one of them. Because as you know, sometimes developers get the best ideas from us players and our endless passion. If you enjoyed the video, do not forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel to stay up to date on the Hogwarts Legacy 2 journey. See you in the next video, and take very good care of yourselves.